Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Leaders in Business part of Logistics Executive TV. Today, I'm joined by a young woman who is the CEO of an organization called The Leading Edge, all the way from Sydney. Leading Edge is a consulting firm, specializes in transformation, growing businesses and market leaders. This young lady has an amazing skill set. She's ubiquitous on LinkedIn. I've seen her in so many different places over recent years. And her skill set comes from a background of technology and change management, digital transformation, and some of the biggest companies in Australia. So joining us today from Sydney, I think, is Lauren Ryder. Lauren, hey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me here, Kim.
Good stuff. Great to see you. And of course, a disclosure, I've been following your career now for many years, probably from the very early stages of your career. And you are right across the board in terms of the executive coaching, which we both share an affinity for, the digital transformation with many, many tier one companies, and in particular, a lot of technology companies, I understand. And there's some other strings to your bow which I want to explore as well. But hey, I always invite our guests to tell us a little bit about their upbringing, the younger years, where the transformations came for you and into business, and tell us the story. How did it start, Lauren?
Sure. Well, I was actually born in South Africa, in Cape Town. And when I was 3, my parents realized that it was time to leave. Things weren't going so well there. And so they both happened to get jobs in Nashville, Tennessee, of all places. So Dad was a professor of computer science, Mom was a doctor. And so, just a pretty normal upbringing, went to university in Washington, D.C., and decided to study what I thought would be really fun, a business degree with marketing. And a semester or so in, I realized I really did not like marketing. I found it very boring. There was a lot of statistics, and it wasn't what I really thought it was going to be. So I picked up the phone and called my dad, and he said, well, look, have you looked on your university's website? They've got an IT degree a master's degree that looks really good. And I thought, okay, give that a go. I'm doing quite well in my IT classes. And that was a big turning point in my life. I actually really, really enjoyed that course. It was a business degree with IT, so I kind of got everything that I really needed. As soon as I graduated, I moved to Sydney and started working here in Sydney, initially in a consulting company. Funnily enough, doing sales. But not long after, I decided to leave, and I actually applied to my client, who was Commonwealth Bank, which is the biggest bank in Australia. And they took me on as a project manager. So I did that for about a year or so until I realized that it was probably one of the most boring jobs ever. And I really thought the people that we were, putting the software in for was way more exciting. And that led me into a career of change management. So for those of you who don't know, change management basically sits alongside project management, but rather focuses on the adoption and the usage of whatever that change is going to be. So it really focuses on the people within the organization as well as customers. So to me, a lot more fun, a lot more exciting. Managed to get some really big projects under my belt in there and decided to go off consulting. So in Sydney, there were quite a few small consulting organizations where I was able to do change management for some very big clients, and quickly started building their businesses for them. We'd come in, I'd do a strategic review and tell them they needed to do this big project, and then I didn't get anything for it. And as I mentioned, I had a background in sales, and I thought, nah, you know what? I can do this myself. And that was just it. That was the only spark that I needed. And I said, I'm starting a business. And it was probably a good thing. I generally kind of jump into things feet first and think later. So I think if I thought too much about it, I might not have done it. But yeah, I started the business and, grew it really successfully for a number of years. Started off with putting consultants in, starting to run change projects, which grew into big transformation projects. And, my background with the IT and with the business and with the people, it all came together because what I realized is that rolling out a transformation isn't just about the technology. People call it a digital transformation, thinking that you'll put new technology in a business and it'll run better. But the most important part is the people in the company. So it's about the leaders who have to drive it through and support the project. It's about the employees who have to do things differently, having to have new skill sets, and it's all about the people. And then we put the technology in, and then that should all work together. So that's kind of our point of difference, is looking at transformation from both people and technology sides.
Well, that's interesting, and I get your point about taking up your own marketing. We've actually been on a very similar journey, and especially since the beginning of COVID, we've taken most of our marketing in-house, and it's never worked so good. So, sometimes you've just got to take the bull by the horns. Yeah. Now I know as a sidebar issue, an issue that's of interest to me is you are an advisor to a leading company in Australia, taking digital centres to the regional digital centres out to the regions in Australia, fulfilling a massive gap in the shortage of data and bandwidth supply to regional Australia. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, that's a really great business. So basically, the way that Australia, the landscape is designed, is that all of the data, all of the cloud, as they call it, is actually all sitting in Sydney and Melbourne for the most part. So anyone outside of those areas, which is quite a decent part of the population, the data has to travel back and forth, in and out, which means that connectivity is really, really slow once you actually leave the major cities. And so what this business has done is put these data centers out into the regions and put the cloud out into the regions to make everything a whole lot faster. So it's quite an incredible initiative.
Oh, excellent. And I followed that online as well. What's the name of that company?
That one is called Leading Edge Data Centers.
Leading Edge Data Center, hence the segue with the names. It's awesome. Hey, so as I said, many bows to many strings to your bow. You have also developed quite a reputation as not only as a celebrity coach, but you have a number of initiatives which are social in nature and encouraging others. And one of them is, I've noticed that the other day on LinkedIn, a big gathering of women. Tell us what that initiative is about, what that organisation is there to do, what's the reason for it existing.
Yeah, sure. So we've called this Leading Women, and it is a group of women who are in leadership or executive positions or run their own business. And we get together it started off as the idea that we wanted, women want to be able to socialize with women and talk about things, network, have a glass of wine, have some nice cheese platter, all that. But we thought that's actually not enough. We actually want to be able to learn and grow and give back. And so what we do is when we get together, we have a presentation by a woman who talks about an area of interest. The last one was about how to bring younger women up through the industry, because most of us actually end up working in male-dominated industries. So she would give some tips and ideas on how to bring that. But then what we do is we actually break out into a really great conversation, and people share ideas and experiences. So, I think it's quite different than the normal kind of networking after work. It really does kind of engage and inspire and help to actually drive change, which is really what we're after.
Absolutely. And just then circling back into the business, the core difference, I saw you being interviewed, only must have been a matter of weeks ago. I forget who was interviewing you, but I'm sure you'll remember. But it was really striking a couple of the points of difference in the way you are running the coaching side of your business versus the mainstream executive coaching. A couple of hot points there again about that differentiation.
Yeah, sure. So, when I work with customers, so while we do project-based work, I also have a whole part of my business, which is about culture and coaching and leadership. And so what we do is we don't do just session one-on-one sessions or only one sessions. Everything that we do is part of a program, because what we find is that for change to actually happen, it has to happen over and over and over again. And information will kind of leave your brain, right? And we know that. And so what we do is we actually run group sessions within organizations, really, really sort of high quality, intensive workshops where we actually work with everyone together to actually get, and they're all customized for the customer. So they might have an issue with, I don't know, communications or negotiation or what have you, whatever their team is challenged with. And we'll bring them into a group and we'll solve those problems together. And a mix between education and hands-on workshop where they actually have to physically problem solve within the workshop. And so why it's different is that by the end of every single session, people walk out with a solution. They can actually go back to their desk the next day and get going on, it's not just theory, it's practice.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. That was the point that I couldn't recall, but it was the way that you were talking about the repetitive nature during that interview, which I think was in Sydney as well. And that really struck a chord with me because, as you know, we've both been in the executive coaching business for well over a decade. And it's quite different from the way our modelling and our process works. So, hey, well done on that, and look forward to hearing more about how that develops and that technique and that modelling develops over the years. You're a holistic, as I said. You're existential. You're doing great marketing. I see you quite regularly across LinkedIn, and most the work that I see is really quite impactful and quite differentiated. So, again, kudos for that, and keep that up. Now, the wider Lauren Ryder, you're in the physical wellness and mental wellness area. You're very strong there as well. I know that you are. You're a representative, I think, or almost an ambassador for the Locker Room, which is Sydney's leading gym. Tell us a little bit about that, because I noticed that you were involved with them, and then all of a sudden now they're placing you at the centre of all their advertisements.
Yeah, look, I've always prioritized health and fitness. So I think probably one of the reasons I've been able to be successful is because mentally and physically, I think it's important to be healthy both ways, right? And so I've always prioritized my health. Locker Room is a gym that opened up, funnily enough, just before the first lockdowns. So it's a gym that was designed only for business executives and industry leaders. And so when I found them, I thought, this is exactly what I want. I want to be able to not only get the workout that I want to do, but also do it, with people, with my peers, right? So I can network at the same time. So yeah, it has been an incredible experience. I think probably I go every single day. I go 5 days a week, 6:15 in the morning. And I do have this theory that, people, how do you do that? How do you have all that energy? And, the way that I see it is, if it's all about consistency, right? And so even if I work out at 70%, or 80%, but I do it consistently, that's when you're going to see results. So my tip for anyone who wants to start taking up some exercise, just about consistency. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. But yeah, so it's been great. And I think, they just keep on putting me on their videos on LinkedIn. So it's a great company.
Hey, they're great adverts. So that's the Locker Room, yeah, in Sydney.
Yeah, Locker Room, that's right.
Oh, they're great. No, there's some great adverts that they do, some great blogs as well. So well done on that. And I know for sure that you're very consistent and hardcore about your wellness and making sure you look after yourself, because it took me weeks to get hold of you, because last week I know you're out at a health retreat with your mum, right?
I was. Look, I think it's really important. Look, we're busy, right? We're all really busy, but I think it's important as well to prioritize downtime. So every year we go away to a health retreat, and there's a lot of meditation and yoga and healthy eating and walks and fresh air, and it was just fabulous. So, I think that it kind of recenters and brings you back and get all that energy back up again, ready to kickstart the next week.
I hear you. Amen to that. Amen to that. And I'll be replaying once we publish here. I'll be playing this to everybody in my household and making sure we get a bit of consistency going as well. Hey, look, and just before we wrap up, I understand you are quite a sportswoman in terms of maritime. You're out and experienced a lot of yachting. You've done some big races in Australia, which is famous for its yachting, of course.
That's right. Yeah. So we do a lot of sailing. Got a boat, and we take it up. Well, not the last couple of years, but generally we take it up every year to Hamilton Island to Race Week, which is Australia's sort of premier yacht race. They have few hundred boats competing, and it's not just about the boating, but it's also about the land activities, which I find quite fun as well. So lots of excitement there. But what we do is we actually leave the boat up there. It's up in Queensland, we're near the Great Barrier Reef, and what we do is we go up and visit, and we go out to the Great Barrier Reef and go scuba diving off the back of the boat, and go to places where most people don't go, because normally you have to go with like a group, but when you're on your own. So we go to some places that haven't been touched by humans. We see some incredible wildlife, and I've taken up a bit of a hobby in underwater photography with that.
Of course you have.
Well, what else are you going to do while you're underwater? May as well snap the photos of the fish. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Superwoman. And, so many interesting elements to the life you lead. But, it's all about embracing the amazing lifestyle that's available in Australia. And you're quite right. A lot of people don't get to go places and do things. And especially in these really strange, dynamic and troubled times in many parts of the world that we lead, I think, it's great to hear a story of embracing change and diversity and energy into, what we can actually achieve. So, Lauren, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and a little bit about your life. Before we wrap up, I always invite our guests to maybe pass on a tip to, in your case, it would be any entrepreneur, but maybe if we talk about young women wanting to get into the area of business leadership and developing their own business, which you have done, what would a tip be that you could leave for other folks, and maybe young women in particular?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I would say just go for it, right? Don't think too much about it. Just do it, I think is to coin Nike's phrase. Really just going and trying. I think that phrase, fake it till you make it, is very valuable. And that was kind of how I did it. I just got into it and did it. Also, reach out to people who've done it before. My door is always open, but look up, if someone you look up to, someone you see on, say, LinkedIn, most women will be happy to share their insights and to support you. And then I think the third one is pretty important for women. I think a lot of women find what I call it the juggle, where a lot of women have home life, they have work life, they often have children and houses and things, and there's a lot sitting on a woman's shoulders. And so I think, my tip there is, if at all possible, outsource the things that you really don't like doing, so that you can have time to do the things that you really want to do. Because the happier you are, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, fantastic. And I've never heard or seen of you not being happy. And I can say that I know for sure with my research that you have a big household and many, many children. So in your household. So congratulations for managing it all and staying right across and clearly on top of it all. Hey, Lauren Ryder, entrepreneur, businesswoman, workout doyen, marine specialist. Where can people get hold of you, and especially in terms of your business and advice? And I know you're very open to giving advice and giving input to people and answering questions. How can people get hold of you, Lauren?
Sure. So LinkedIn is always the best way. Just search for Lauren Ryder. But you can see my company name. It's leading-edge.global. And you can find me there as well. So do reach out. Love to hear from people.
Good stuff. And I think Andrea, my production manager, has managed to put this information up here above us as well. Lauren, absolute delight to speak to you again. Thanks so much for sharing time, and all the best with the career and the family ahead of time. And we look forward to make sure we follow the story down track. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Kim. Have a great one.